Hi, everyone. Ed Robertson. Thank you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. We'll be back with a brand new edition of TV Confidential later in the week. In the meantime, please enjoy this clip from a conversation you may have heard before, but probably haven't heard in a long time. Please enjoy.
Hi, this is Bill Daly. You're listening to TV Confidential. I'll tell you more, but it's confidential.
Ed Robertson with the program. Note, this particular edition of This Week in TV History originally aired in February 2015. Ed Robertson along with Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen as we continue our look at This Week in TV History. Tony?
Let's go February 27, 1940. Howard Hessman is born.
Speaking of improvising, long before Dr. Johnny Fever, long before head of the class, he was a member of the committee.
The committee, which started in San Francisco.
Started in San Francisco, which was it was his work on the committee alongside with Peter Bonners that attracted Howard Hessman to the attention of Bob Newhart, and that's how Howard Hessman became Mr. Plager on the Bob Newhart show.
Yeah, later on he was part of the group.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an openly gay character.
He was an openly gay character, and you can argue he may have been one of the first openly gay characters on network television. You know, this is before soap, and
yeah,
but it was sort of, it was the premise for one of the episodes, but they didn't make a big deal out of it.
And the comedy worked because he wasn't the stereotype of the time,
right?
Because he was, let's say, playing straight. And he was having, let's say, problems with relationships.
Yes.
Or with his relationship, and speaking very generically, and everyone assumes one thing until he mentions the name.
Yeah.
And then they realize, oh, he's one of those. And the homophobia of that time really comes out in the characters. I think they had just killed off the Mr. Gianelli character who died with the which I don't know the backstory, if there was an issue with the actor who played Mr. Gianelli, one of those character actors that works all the time and is great.
Noam Pitlick.
Yeah, who worked all the time.
Except for one episode in which he was played by Daniel J. Travanti.
So yeah, Mr. Gianelli who died, truck of zucchini, all the zucchini. He was killed by the zucchini. Yes. But you're right. I mean, it was within a couple of shows of that they decided to bring in a new member of the group, a new member to round out the group to fill in the spot that had been previously filled by Mr. Gianelli. And at that point, Plager had been seeing Bob one-on-one, and Bob thought he incorporated him into the group.
Benefit, yeah.
And then they introduced a new guy, and I just left Mr. Carlin looking at, standing next to Mr. Peterson. Yeah, okay, let's get a new guy, but nobody hostile. Move it, twerp. And then you bring him in, and then he's in there for several episodes. He was in a Dragnet also, where he played a hippie character, which I'm sure he got a lot of roles as that hippie character.
Not only that, even when he wasn't appearing as Plager on screen, you could hear him like occasionally if Bob and Emily were watching television and they would turn on the television, you could hear Howard Hessman being an announcer or being a soap opera actor. He did a lot more Bob Newhart than we just see him on screen for.
Oh, he was actually behind the scenes, doing the voiceover work and such.
Yeah, but as is mentioned on several occasions during the on-air comedies of the Bob Newhart box set, what Bob Newhart liked about Hesseman is that, like Peter Bonners, he was accustomed to working in front of a live audience, and Bob, whenever possible. Not that he imposed his will on casting, but he said, whenever possible, I would prefer having actors who are used to working in front of an audience, because it's a different dynamic.
Yes, most definitely.
If someone runs up on their lines, you might be able to do something with it in the moment, which creates an even better scene. So to the extent, and so the vast majority of actors who appeared on that show, even whether they're regulars or just one shot, the vast majority of them worked before audiences.
So yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
He was Howard Hessman. Like I said, he did. I know at least one Dragnet.
Yeah.
where it's all basically a TV show and it's a debate that's moderated, and he's very much a hippie character.
Yeah, he did an episode, this is about a year or two before WKRP. He did an episode of Harry-O with David Jansen, which he played either a senator or a congressman who was leading some anti-corruption committee. And it's a straight role.
Yeah,
but he had a couple of his moments where he denounces, this witness for being uncooperative, and
he did an interesting shift because he was playing the hippie, and then all of a sudden he was the political candidate
or the establishment.
Yeah,
and he could do the young prosecutor or something like that.
Yeah,
where he was youthful, but the next big thing, and then it turns out he murdered somebody, so he's going to jail. He was also in the movie Billy Jack. He was in the first Billy Jack movie, credited with the committee because they actually give credit to the committee. He's there with the whole ensemble, and there are little bits that they do. They are basically part of the youth center or what, and they were basically playing improvisational actors to basically teach kids, right and wrong, and they served a function in the telling of the story because you had this youth center and they were using the improvisation and all that with the kids, but they were also performing in the street. So they got to add comic relief directly and indirectly into the storyline, basically playing those characters. And then he also played two parts on Soap. He played twins. You never saw them at the same time. I think it was just a casting thing and a last-minute fix. There was, when Jessica was going to trial for the murder of Peter Campbell, they seeked out a defense attorney played by Howard Hessman who said she does not have a case. That she looked so guilty, and he didn't take the case. And then he's back in the next episode as his twin brother, who's the prosecutor. And, where he's, kind of, I guess, the evil twin in one respect. But you never see both at the same time.
Funny.
And, eventually, Jessica gets Mulgrew to defend her. But, he has this great moment where he's saying, even Clarence Darrow at his best, and you, Mr. Tate, as the judge, and the rest of her family as the jury, could not, get her off on this crime. He says that to Chester, and then he leaves, and then Jessica comes in. Oh, you'll be okay. And then, they cut to the, because he can't tell his wife.
Yeah.
What creek she's up. And, but it's also great with the music that they would have because you had a couple of different themes, but usually when the ending was very funny, you had that bass, coming up, doom, 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 and then they would play it. And then, when it's a sad ending, they had the sad music or no music. But it was, such a great line. No, you'll be fine. And then the next episode, it's like, oh, we're going to meet with the prosecutor, and it's Howard Hessman. And then, oh, yeah, you got me. Yeah, and just played the whole thing off. And I don't know if they had hired somebody else and that person bailed or something happened and they said, well, Howard's in the building. Let's just. But for him to play straight as the prosecutor in this case, who, well, I wouldn't say straight because the character was really getting off on the idea of sending Jessica to the big house. And you also had Gordon Jump as Chief Tinkler, who for some reason was also the bailiff.
So
you had two WKRP actors who, while, the next season WKRP would be on, but these two had to be present for the season premiere when we found out, what really happened in the courtroom. So they were doing double duty on two different network shows so this story could play out.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay Area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt
future litigation while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to the TV Confidential podcast, or better yet, give us a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or wherever you listen to our podcast.